Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our October lecture. It's great to be back. My name is Nicholas Manousis. I'm the Executive Director here at the Horological Society of New York, and I'm really happy to see such a big crowd with us tonight. So let's get on with a few announcements. We have lots of classes going on for the month of October. You'll see a full lineup of classes that are happening upstairs. And you'll notice October 17th, we have 2 daytime classes. That's Watch Time Weekend. That's a very busy weekend for everyone here in New York. So we're looking forward to that coming up. And also 2 traveling education dates, Los Angeles, November 15th, and Atlanta in January. So if you have some friends in Los Angeles or Atlanta, let them know we're coming their way. And of course, save the date for our 160th anniversary gala coming up on Saturday, March 21st, 2026 at the Plaza Hotel. If you were there last year, you know what I'm talking about. It was quite a party, black tie party, and we're really looking forward to it. We're going to have lots of news and tidbits coming out about the gala in the coming months, so stay tuned. We'll have tickets becoming available I believe next month in November. And a quick advertisement for an exhibit that we have going on upstairs. It's Early American Pocket Watches, and it's on through the end of the year. Some really incredible pieces up there, including the earliest known American watch. So if you have a chance, I highly recommend checking it out. And now on to the main event, on to tonight's lecture. So I think we can all agree it's pretty cool to have a transforming robot on your wrist, right? But there's a lot more to the brand. There's a lot more to Hautlence than their very cool robot watch that we just all discovered. And so tonight we're going to take a deep dive into the brand and learn a lot about where it came from, what it's all about, and what is in store for its future. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Guillaume Tetu, the Hautlence founder and chairman, and also joined by Cedric, Joos, the global brand manager for Hautlence. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Nick. Thank you. Wow, it's a huge crowd. Good evening, everybody. I'm really happy to be back to New York. I'm quite familiar with the city, but it's always a pleasure to be there, and really happy to see such a big group of enthusiasts. So what we'll try to do tonight is to bring you through the journey of making a watch brand, a watch company from scratch. So of course, trying to be different. And that's a long journey, but it's only a 20 years old brand. So we will try to give you some insight, both on the technical approach, how we made it happen to be different with a new way to tell the time, but also on the entrepreneurship journey, where we had some really important milestones, including the integration to the Melan family and the Mel building. So we'll go through the different bigger, I would say, steps that you need to create when you are on the way to proceed a new brand. Of course, there is a lot of nice brands, so we will have to go through the process of creating from the name, from the story behind the logo, but most important, the product. Then we will go to the integration in terms of timeline with the H. Moser family and the group with the Melan family. And of course, we will deep dive in the calibers and what is on the pipe for the future. Of course, we'll have some open runs. A few words. So I'm a watch veteran now because I started my journey in 1995 working for both Rolex, Tudor, bracelet supplier, Gefrère. I was meant to do design for the car industry or for the plastic industry because I was born in Lyon, but the life made me land in Geneva first and then into Neuchâtel, where I had the chance to work 7 years for Tag Heuer as product manager and a product computer-aided designer. And it was not enough for me, so I wanted to do something different. And with a bunch of friends, we decided to create It was not even a brand at the beginning, to be honest. It was more a kind of company producing or developing products with a new way to tell the time. But we ended to create a brand because we understood that with all the design and the common features we wanted to bring together, there was a real, let's say, link between them, bringing some mechanics. And everything for us was important to resonate with Neuchâtel, because Neuchâtel is the place in the middle of the Jura Mountain, in the middle of the watch valley, where all the suppliers work for the watch industry. From Geneva to Basel, you have that Jura Mountain area where all the supply chain is located. And we wanted to link that Neuchâtel area to the brand name, so that's why we decided to put the anagram of Neuchâtel, fixing all the letters to pay a tribute to those important talent making the watch for us. So it's not an eponym brand. I'm not a watchmaker. We had some watchmakers in-house, of course, but it's not a one-man show. It's a group. It's a team effort. And that's why we wanted to pay a tribute for the community around us. So that's great to have a good name, but we need also a good symbol, a good logo to make a watch brand interesting. And what we decided to do as a product designer and a 3D computer designer, we know that the Moebius ring is something really, really impossible to do. That's a mathematical formula that is generating an infinity shape, a shape with only one surface. So as a symbol of timekeeping, that infinity shape was really important for us as a symbol, and we landed to do that kind of 8 shape that became our logo with the Hautlence name. And that's why also we decided to produce only the multiply of the number with 8. So 8, 28, 88 maximum limitation numbers. So that's for the kind of branding. Of course, this is not enough. You need a lot of storytelling. You need a lot of important things to share with the community. But at least with a good name and a strong name and the location of Neuchâtel, we had at the beginning all the ingredients to tell the story on the product. And product-wise, we wanted to be different because, of course, there are many, many, many brands in the market. We consider also that there is a lot of new brands coming every year. More than 30 new brands establish the story every year. And that's important for us. That was important, that's still important. And you will see that on the product journey, that we need to create something really different in terms of design. So what we brought is really some mechanical and architectural elements into the watch. And first, designing the way to display the time. So in that first collection that you see on the bottom, it's a connected rod that is playing the link between the minute retrogrades and the jumping hour, and that generates a rectangle. So that's why we started with that shape. It was not a design purpose to do an horizontal shape, it was a result of the movement. And most of the journey started like that. We first think about the design, and then we have the design of the display, and then we land on the design of the shape. In terms of milestones, so we created a company and we founded a company in 2004, so a little bit more than 20 years ago. That was really huge. If you recall and you remember that time, there was not many brands playing in the display. A few independent watchmakers, Urwerk, for instance, was an inspiration. Certainly Vianney Alter, with those crazy exploded regulators with the steampunk approach. But except a few independent small brands, there was not really a brand. Max came just after with MB&F in 2005. So it was a new era. And of course, bigger brands or creative brands like Richard Mille already existed, but it was more on the material, on the design, not really on the display. So I think we really came with something unique and different in 2004 that we, of course, had to generate, in terms of creativity, even more than just one product. And we will see that just later. A really, really important milestone in the company, in the journey. Since 2009, we started to discuss with the Mélan family, with Georges-Henri, but also with Bertrand, who started to work with us in Asia. And that was the first contact with the Mélan family. And Mr. Mélan wanted to create something for his family, a family holding and business. So they took over Mother and Hautlence almost in the same time in 2012. And for Hautlence, it was really an amazing integration, because going from a super small independent running sales, marketing, design, production alone, and going to a group with such a name and a reputation in the market completely changed the game. So that's a really important milestone, and many of my friends or independents launching their own brand today, they need that kind of credibility on the market. And I think the Melan family, and we will see the synergies that we have today with the group, make the game completely different for us. Sorry, in 2020, another important milestone, we decided to move from Neuchâtel to Schaffhausen. So that could sound weird, because we said, oh, we are in Neuchâtel, and we made the name with the letters of Neuchâtel. But even we are in Schaffhausen, most of the suppliers, because we subcontract few things, are done in the Neuchâtel area. But having on the same roof with the mother group, meaning that we have watchmakers, engineers, and also up to the market with the synergies we have on the field with Claudio and the team here, that means we are either with the subsidiaries on the field, and we are from the factories in Switzerland. We go and deep dive on that, but that was a really important milestone for us also to be integrated to the H-Mother facilities. Then today, we'll explain you where we are, and I will also hand over to Cedric on that. So in terms of synergies, that's really concrete. We are on the same roof, meaning we have some watchmakers working on the perpetual calendar, but they also work on Hautlence concept. We have engineers working on movement. We use some movement. We can use some movement from H-Mother, the tourbillon, the standard automatic winding, but we have also Agenor helping us to develop some complications. So that's super important to have that kind of synergies in-house and up to the market, because we have subsidiaries in US, here in New York, in Asia, and in Middle East. And any independent could not dream about a better setup, because we control from inbound production facilities supply up to the outbound with the distribution. And to control the market end-to-end, that's really a fantastic approach. Now, let's go into the creativity. I mentioned a bit the jumping arrows. We'll go and deep dive on that. So we started in 2004 with the HL first movement that we also redesigned in a runway with a date, the Quantième, and in a smaller size for women. The size are not exactly that. It's a different rounding, but you can feel that one is 44, the other one is 41. Then we jump into a crazy movement with the HL2 that I will detail, up to the new era with the Vagabond, the Linéar, up to the Sphere that was awarded on the Grand Prix de Genève. So it's all about creativity and new way to display the time. And that's, I think, one of the common points in the DNA of Hautlence. So now we'll go a bit more technical, because I understood that you gentlemen and ladies, we are in front of people who love watches and mechanics. So let's try to explain what is so different in our concept. As we decided to create a jumping arrow from traditional way to make a jumping arrow with a snail on the center, taking the energy on the minute wheel, we don't have much energy to make the jump of the disc and the retrograde minutes. We don't have enough energy. So we had to pull that energy from that inertial weight. So that's a 2 grams of gold inertial part that will give the energy for the rotation on the jump. So you have an eccentric that will bring back the minute hand to 0 when the snail push that finger to the extreme part, with a little spring that is taking not more than 30 degrees of amplitude. You have enough strength with the inertial to bring that energy and make the jump of the disc. So that's the first innovation in our journey, and that was the first patent. In total, with Hautlence, we have developed different ideas, and we protected up to 6 different ideas with patents. 4 have been really active, and we will see most of them are in the HL2 movement, because we really tried to bring some traditional art of watchmaking and mechanics. And that's that link that made let's say the creativity and the consistency that was able to be protected. The second group of movements that we developed was the HL2. So the first one was in 2 dimensions, with the disc, with the connecting rod, with all the layers, but in 2 dimensions. There, in the HL2 calibers, we wanted to go in 3 dimensions. So the innovation here is that we have been able to link the escapement bridges to the chain, which is unique. That's the first time the display will make a rotation of the escapement wheel, of the chronometry. So technically speaking, that's a jumping carousel, because that's more than only the second wheel that will rotate. It's more than that. It's up to mainly the minute wheel, so just after the center wheel, that will rotate every 60 minutes. And for that, we had to develop quite a complex mechanism. So I will detail that. So the hour is displayed with a 12-hour link chain, like a bicycle. It's a chain. The minute is the retrograde minute that we have already developed. But on the center, where the logo is located, you will have a little speed limitator made of inertials that will control the energy of a second barrel, meaning that you have 1 barrel for the chronometry, 1 barrel for the complication. That's where the complexity is, and that's where the patent came. So we use a minute repeater mechanism to control the speed of the chain, not to interact too much with the mechanism. That's where the complexity was for us, and that's where the beauty of this mechanism was really interesting to develop. So I summarize. You have a jumping hour with a chain that is, let's say, started with the retrograde minute. When you start that concretely, what happened? You have 1 barrel that is dedicated for the chronometry. This is the barrel that you have in any watch. And you have a second barrel, like in a minute repeater, in a way, that you will charge with the pusher. Here it's not a pusher. We take the energy along the time, along the way of the chronometry, and we free that energy when the minute retrograde is just releasing the power of that barrel. In the rest of the product, we have that. So it's an automatic winding movement with a power reserve indicator. So we develop basically everything we need for a complex watch, but we brought that minute repeater energy, additional energy, to release all the motion we need to make that rotation of the hour and also embark the gear train. So quite a complex journey. For the record, we spent 4 years to develop that movement, and we have 3 patents on this one. So that was the first jump in 3 dimensions. I hope I'm not too crazy. It's okay? The rhythm is okay? All right. So that's where we wanted to continue the journey, and that's where we basically have the basic fundamentals of the brand. Display in another way, and also, of course, going into creativity with the movement. Now we jump to Schaffhausen, and now we have a bunch of new movements that are a mix of in-house, a mix of Agenor, because Mail Bolding also owns some shares in Agenor, so we can display some additional plates based on movement from Mother, and I think that's the time where I will let my friend Cedric continue a bit. So Cedric Joos, the brand manager, will continue, and I'm back for the questions.
Thank you, Guillaume. So as well, quick introduction. I took over the brand beginning of the year, in February, and recently found out a little bit more about the brand, thankfully as well, due to Guillaume Tetu, who explained as well a little bit the why. I will tell you as well where we want to go. I think sometimes it's easier to know where you want to go when you know what's all about. Hautlence, what was the first ideas. And like that, we got already a nice vision for the future. We have as well a new collection that is coming out for next year that allows us to enter in a new market as well with more attractive prices. So when we relocated to Schaffhausen, we thought about how can we use the synergies. And the first synergies that we used were the movements. Obviously, Moser is very well known for their in-house movements, and they're very reliable. I think the work that Edouard did in that time that he took over the brand in 2012 as well was remarkable, because at the time he told always like the watches were like boomerangs. And now today we have a reliable movement that doesn't come back, and we know much more, and we produce around 4,000 of these movements. So it made absolute sense for Hautlence to utilize those movements and build a case around it. I always say it's a little bit the question about the chicken and the egg. What is first? Is the design the case, or is it the movement? And that case, it was the movement of Moser that we then redesigned. You see, it's quite similar, but the rotor, we made it a little bit more Hautlence looking like. And that's the reason why we then changed to a bigger case size. But with the integrated strap, it allowed us to really save some space, because when you have no logs, obviously the measurement, it's much nicer, and it fits much nicer on the wrist. After that, when we made that decision, the first edition that we brought out was the Vagabond. And what is very, a point that we wanted to achieve is to become a little bit more obtainable on a price point of view. So previously we were, obviously there were some acceptation, but we were around 80 to 220,000, because we have a limitation of 28 pieces per series. So coming out with a limitation of 28, it's really hard then to obtain a price point of 30,000 Swiss francs, which we did. And we then further developed the Wandering Hours, which is our Vagabond, which is a minute disc where you have 3-hour position, which jumps in a triangle. And that was the first release fully made in Schaffhausen. Then, with our dear friends from Agenor, we developed the Linear, which is a jumping hour, a vertical jumping hour. What you need to note, you cannot go backwards, which I love, because it's a little bit as well to tell you, or the user to tell, that when you make a mistake, you can only fix it in the future. It's like this watch. If you jump an hour to ahead, you need to go forward and make the 12 hours. What is as well something that was initially planned is to bring a hallmark back. One of the hallmark is the indicator, the hour indicator. If you look at it, you see there's a beautiful arm. We call that the locomotive arm, which you maybe noticed from the first series that Guillaume designed in Neuchâtel. So there's something coming back. And you have a beautiful tourbillon movement, which is the 800 from Moser, with a double hairspring. That's as well something that we have in-house, precision engineering. It's quite rare. There are around a dozen suppliers who do hairsprings, and we do it with our own company, which we call Precision Engineering. Then one big project that we had, and we owned it previously already, was the Sphere. It was developed in Neuchâtel, but it was not working to that point that we wanted to work. We wanted to make a reliable watch that people have fun to use. And we fully re-engineered it with our team in Schaffhausen. And in 2022, we reintroduced it. And in 2023, we won the prize at G. Piaget for innovation, because this hour indicator is very unique. There's no one else who is indicating the hour like this. So it's a sphere that turns 1.5 times around itself and change 3 times the direction. So there's a lot of points that you need to respect that it works, because you have as well a retrograde on the right side, which is based on a 200. Again, synergies with Moser. And today we can definitely with pride say it works perfectly fine. And we were even capable, if today you come quick to say hi, I have a smaller version on my wrist, which will be launched for watch time. Now the future. We know that we have a big case, so our goal was to come back to the initial shape and form, which is from the first HL, but now with the integrated strap. This time we used a titanium case, which makes it much lighter, and as well, it's the first fully in-house constructed piece from Schaffhausen, movement-wise, that is made for Hautlence. We have here as well a novum for Hautlence is a micro rotor, and you have again those two arms which indicate vertically the Doppler retrograde, but we made them in the shape of a serpenti because we have a central tourbillon. So you need to move around the tourbillon, and that was very, very tricky to develop that. And we have really some great minds, and most likely great minds, they go for their own, let's say, quests, and he created then afterwards his own watch brand, Benjamin. And yeah, he created that piece, and we are now as well working on making it better. Obviously, the product first in the first series is not always perfect because we are perfectionists as well in our team. So the next generation, next year, will definitely have some improvements on the point of as well reading time a little bit better and clearer. Now we come to what was introduced at the beginning. I think the Retrovision, if you hear about this collection, it can seem a little bit what's the deal behind that collection. And I think it's very important to say it's a concept watch, and it was really not intended to be commercialized at the beginning. We were inspired by the buzz of the first Mace watch. I don't know if you recognize that watch, but it was a watch without the movement. It had only a pinball, and you could like navigate through the labyrinth or the maze, and you had two holes. And in the second hole, when you were at the end, you could move the crown, and the ball synced, and you were back to the beginning. That watch, a lot of people spoke about. It was as well quickly sold out. And we thought when we restarted with the Watches and Wonder, that as a small brand in Carré des Horlogers, for the biggest watch fair, we have troubles not to get the recognition from the press that they're writing about us. So the idea came in a sales seminar that we have globally every year to make a Retrovision watch. The collection was already set. And to bring objects from the past back and make them into watches. So there's really no limits. And the first one was a radio watch where you have actually a hidden flying tourbillon, which if you own a tourbillon, you know that they can be loud. And we thought it could be a gimmick to hide it behind a speaker and that you actually need to listen to it. And then a classical analog view of two hands indicator. Then this year was a big hit for us because we got a lot of views due to a watch that we were inspired by, a toy watch from Japan from the 80s, sorry, which was a toy watch that you can just grab the case and take the case away and build a robot. And that's the outcome. So we built a tourbillon in it and made it a titanium case, and everyone wanted to see it, even other brands. And yeah, our goal was achieved, brand awareness with making a great product. After, what I love about this project, maybe my boss will not love to hear it, or the owner, but is that on the margin point of view, it doesn't make absolute no sense because you go to your suppliers, he laughs first, he thinks you're crazy. But at the end, when you see the project at the end, it's like the best marketing tool you can have because it's the product that speaks. It's not a good campaign, even that we love good campaigns. So yeah, that's about our concept watch. Next year, there will be something as well different coming out as well from Retrovision. And we're already looking into a new collection for those concept watches because we believe that that's the future of the brand, and we need to keep that that everyone is excited that we bring one time a year such a watch out. What is next? So I think what's next is we need to build an image. It's a people's business. It's really telling our story right. I think it was when we rebuilt the website, we wanted to have two sides. One is our watches, but as well our story, because a lot of people don't know from where we come from, why are we today in Schaffhausen. And we already videographed Guillaume telling the story from the get-go. And one important moment was in 2012 when the family Mellon bought the company. And there was most likely Georges-Henri's will to buy that brand at that time. And this is the second video that we're going to bring out, and then as well explaining where it's going, the vision, and creating a clear image, who are the people behind the brand, because till now it was clear that Guillaume was part, but what is happening now? Where are we? As well explaining that we are part of Moser, not hiding it. And I think this is definitely important that we build that in the first year. As well as who are the people building those watches, like which engineer, which watchmaker does the watches. And step by step, we are filling that puzzle and making the picture clear. As well, one thing that we noticed is that our collection doesn't allow a collector to have a journey. So we started to research what could we do. Obviously, in the past, we had different shapes, but it's not always easy for a brand to bring a new collection out because it seems like you're copying someone. So we had the luck to meet designer of the Streamliner, and we worked on something that he had actually already drawn and made the design in 2019. And he actually wanted to bring that watch himself out. But speaking with us, opened his eyes and said, I actually think it's better if we bring it out. And so he gave us his biggest work in his eyes, because he's committing in a long time relationship with us. And we are quite excited as well to bring it out. To be honest, I never saw Edouard so excited in a meeting, as well the other people around it. And it will be a collection that is in the entry level for us, which is around 29,000. So, and there the challenges are obviously, maybe more on a technical part, is when you start to create modules, how high can the movement be? Which movement can you use? So the Moser movement was unfortunately out, but we found some other good people from the Neuchâtel region as well. So, and we work with Agenor, which makes a lot of sense for us, and make the complication with them. And yeah, we're going to be excited to bring that out. It will be a little bit as well more storytelling journey. And yeah, that's about the future. Most likely next year, if you speak with me, I have maybe other ideas. Yeah. So we come to the end, Q&A. You most likely have questions for us.
Thank you, Cedric. Thank you, Guillaume. We can now open it up to questions. If anyone has a question, please raise your hand and I'll bring the microphone to you. We'll go here to the back. Start there.
Thanks. Can you speak about your collaboration with Agenor and Jean-Marc Videric, how it worked? Are you going to them and say, we want like this type of movement with this configuration?
It's a little bit difficult because sometimes as well they have limits. So we say we are looking for something new, like especially beginning of the year. I was giving them a little bit the hint that we are looking for something new, a new collection. Maybe they had something in their back drawers that they thought would be interesting for Hautlence to develop. As an example, the linear was a complication they already had. Just no one else developed it like the way we did. In that case, with the new collection, it was more, we came with the drawing, and they now make the pré-étude, which is the development of the movement. And they found us as well, with the help of Guillaume, of course. That's is the person who could deliver the movement to that complication. Because obviously you need the size, but you need the power reserve. We want an automatic movement, so the height is very important. And if you work like in those really, we had only 2 millimeters for the complication, and they're now working on that it works out for us. And we need as well a movement, because you need to always work long term. So that means we don't want to buy a movement, because you need to buy many movements, that doesn't work for other complications. So it needs to have that option to build something higher up. Yeah. I hope answered your question.
Hi, you guys do amazing work. It's very, very impressive.
Thank you.
I have a question about when you were talking about how you're, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So you were talking about how you want to get your movements, your calibers to work perfectly. So I'm assuming that's all done by computer, like simulation. So you work it on a computer, and can you just explain that process? If it's not working perfectly, that's by having
there is always two ways. There is a first way that is the theory on the 3D computer-aided design, where we build the movement. And there is a prototyping approach, where we need to do some tests, some lab tests. So we do some little shocks on the movement, and then we see how the movement behavior will sustain in the long term, in the long run. So that's the first thing. You cannot wear the watch for 10 years and wait if it's working. So we have some process to accelerate that aging of the movement, and we do that usually with different labs in-house, of course, but also with labs like we have Laboratoire du Bois or Metallotest, who are helping us to simulate what will be the wearing of the watch, what can be the damaging part that we need to improve to avoid to have back and forth with the after-sale service. So it's a kind of process of we simulate everything we can, including some friction, some resistance of the springs, etc., on the theoretical part with the computer-aided design. And as soon as we can, we do some prototypes, even more than one. It's a few units that we will simulate in real life to make sure we see where the difficulties could come in the future. That's always that process. And for us, because we have big mechanical parts, that's really important to simulate that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Questions?
This is probably the third last question you wanted to hear, but why aren't you licensing those retro watches to another company? Like the little clock watches and stuff like that. I think they would sell thousands. It could be brand recognition.
We had an idea with the Retrovision, the last one that we released, to make it more affordable. Obviously, it's the price point that plays a role. We actually made only 8, so they were selling at 85,000 Swiss francs. That's probably where a lot of our clients say, okay, it's a lot of fun, but that's not in my budget, which is fully okay. But it's true, we are looking into the idea as well, the ones that were celebrated and got a lot of love, that we maybe do something like our friends at NBNF, that they have something that is a little bit more affordable, but we're still thinking about how should that brand be called. I fully agree. Fully agree. No, we're working on it. Right now it's like we're a small team, so that needs a bigger team. We have obviously Moser, the team that helps us, but that's on our main project. So that could be something that in the next 2-3 years could be developed. But it's definitely something that we have written down and is in our minds to make it like a little bit more approachable, especially the ones that were celebrated, because that's thank you towards the people following us and cheering us up. Yeah, you have it.
Any other questions? Right here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Are there any complications that you've imagined that you haven't yet been able to do because they're physically not possible? Is there something you've imagined that you're just top 3 that you'd want to do?
We wanted to explore the digital approach of the display, linking some octagonal shapes and playing with the jump of that to make a digit. We explored that kind of thing that was not realistic in the past. Today we have the chance to bring different technologies, the Liga technology with the silicium that you can raise. We have the 3D printing that is bringing some new shapes. For instance, when we had the HL2 movement, the connection between the chain and the escapement required some conical gears. There is not a lot of people making conical gears in Switzerland. There is only one, is Andreas Streller. So he did our conical gears, and this is the one working also at the early edge of H-Moser. So now with the new technologies, we could reimagine that kind of complication that was not possible to realize 10 or 15 years ago. So that's something that we can bring on the table.
Other questions over here?
I love what you guys do as well. I like that you push the limits and go after what you feel will gravitate towards the masses. This is a few questions in one. I want to ask, what do you feel in the next few years will be the complication that defines your brand? And how many watchmakers and how many on the team of Hautlence in total?
It's difficult. I think right now for us at Hautlence, I think the sphere has still a lot to achieve because not many people know about it. So our now role in taking over as well the brand is to show a broader world of collectors that this piece exists. And because we definitely only, till now we have only 2 series that came out. So it's like 56 watches, which is nothing. And we need definitely to push that. Afterwards, we are working on new ideas. One complication just recently is on hold, where, one component was never made. So the gamble was quite high for us to release that piece, and it then doesn't work. So for smaller brands, and that's the reason why a lot of those smaller brands who have like exotic movements quickly disappear, is because the gamble and the risk to invest in a new movement is high, and you have like a short series of pieces because you need to be exclusive. So you will not sell thousands of watches. So there we, it's a tricky part. As Guillaume said, there are technologies that previously were not working. Today with the new technologies that we are using, like 3D printing, they work, especially on dials. We just recently brought one out, the Vagabond, where we worked with 3D printing, and that allowed us to 3D shape those dials. And afterwards, we had as well we went to visit some suppliers of who have those concepts, those crazy concepts, and you like think, wow, that looks great on paper, but how does it look like in 2 years? And you need to make such a long-term investment, and who is going to buy this? Like, is there actually a buyer out there? So it's always like that. Is it too complicated that someone will buy it and gets excited enough? And right now our goal is to simplify a little bit, because sometimes the tricky part is that they're like, how do you read time on that piece? Obviously, then the joke of Guillaume is always, take your iPhone, but it shouldn't be. But the sphere is definitely one that we need to push and show that it can be loved and should be loved, Maybe.
In terms of watchmakers. And in terms of watchmakers, you wanted to know, so today this is shared resources, this is shared talents, because we have different groups of watchmakers in the Moser facilities. Some of them are experienced watchmakers doing the perpetual calendar and the Hautlence. So it's about 3 or 4 watchmakers working in our production usually. 4 or 5 maximum.
A question over here.
Thank you very much for your lecture. It was lovely. As tastes and styles move over time, what could we possibly expect in the future in terms of smaller case sizes from the brand?
We're going to be under 40 millimeters. This thickness will be under 11. So it's going to be a really attractive watch to wear.
But nothing down towards 34 or 35?
That's tricky. Maybe on Moses' side.
Any other questions?
Thank you for this presentation. I'm interested to know, for the watchmakers, how long does a single piece take to assemble? And then I don't know if the pieces have been around long enough, but how difficult would you say it is to service some of these watches, in the future? Has there been any thought to the design when it comes to that aspect?
So there is two kind of movements. So on the synergies we have with Mother, some basic movement only required to assemble the layer, so the Agenor modules, for instance. If we go back to the past, on the HL movement, one watchmaker usually need 1 week to assemble the full movement and control it. It was the kind of timeline. For the HL2 with the chain, more than 550 components, it's about 2 weeks of assembling and 1 week of control. So one watchmaker used to make maximum 2 watches per month, just to give you the rough idea on the production side. And we are not in the traditional watchmaking. We are not doing the pre-montage, cleaning up, removing it's already almost industrialized. So that's just to give you the time that you need to assemble that kind of concept. So it's the same kind of timing for the sphere. This is the level of complexity. That's also why we produce only 28 per colors. That means it's also linked to the number of watchmakers you can allocate to that kind of production. For the after-sale service, some of the products that are coming for regular service, of course, after 20 years, it's normal. We need to oil and to clean up. Some of them have also some defect that happens. So we have two streams of work. Some of our key retailers in Singapore, because a big part of the production that we produced is in the Southeast Asia. So we have some partnership with our local retailers to make the service locally. So we supply the spare parts and they can operate on behalf. So we have to train them and to give them the recommendation. And some of the high complication come back either to Mother, or we have also one of our former watchmakers outside that can also take some after-sale service. So it's different streams, different ways of working according to the level of complexity and what you can let service on the market or what you have to bring back to the factories. Quite a simple way.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you. I'm very curious, for a watchmaker with such exclusive pieces, how do you think about your client list? Are you previewing pieces with them before they're in full production, or are you mostly showing them at time of production or at the end? Or like, how does that work really in such a small production environment?
So definitely where we get the first feedbacks is with our retailers. We show them what is their reaction when they see the piece. Maybe as an example, at the time with H. Moser, when we first showed the Streamliner, some responded directly like, that's not your cup of tea, that's way too sportive for such a brand. You should keep it in your garden. And I feel like if you have like people who hate it and love it, that's when you did the job right. I think like that's the right reaction you expect. And that's what I love about Moser when they challenge colors, as example. They go in color schemes that other brands would never dare to go. And for us, it's like as well complications, specific designs where people love it or hate it. And that gives you the character of a brand. Because obviously, if you go to let's say a watch that is round with hands, you can only with price define yourself in a certain way if you don't go into the movement too much. And we try it with like unique displays. That's our goal. But for the new collection, really the idea was to bring a more puristic piece out, and then get a little bit more complicated, so that people can have both worlds. Yeah.
Hi. One of my favorite things that you guys have been doing, at least on the Moser side recently, is, as you mentioned, playing with more out there colorways, as well as like materials. I think I've seen some endeavors in like solid sapphire cases and a couple of other random little one-off cool explorations. How do pieces like that fit within your production? How, like, is that something that a client approaches you for, or are you setting aside allocations and build time just to do the exploring?
So recently we had a customer in Zurich who we first showed Moser, and he was like, yeah, that's not enough. I want something more. So we showed Hautlence, and he said, that's definitely my cup of tea. I want something more exotic, because he was like already collecting a lot of beautiful pieces, like most likely most of his collection is from Patek. So now he wants something a little bit more unique that speaks for him. And I think like the collectors can transition. If all of a sudden Moser is not enough, they can make then the jump to us or to other brands from the independent like watch segment. They're like this Uhrwerk, as we mentioned, who is incredible what they do. MBNF. There's many watches in that segment can be the next choice for such a collector. But I think both brands don't bite each other, so they actually navigate in different markets.
It's usually not a first watch. The Hautlence, you need a kind of process to come to that point. So that's why we can stick to what we feel the right DNA, the right direction. We don't need to be commercial. We don't need to be on the tendency or the trend or the fashion. We give the line, we give the direction, and people who understand that, they will join the club. But usually they have already 20 or 40 watches at a certain level, which is quite a comfortable position for us. That means we feed an appetite of some lucky people that have already an extremely interesting collection.
And on the colorway side, I think we are going into, like, now in the next year, we working a little bit more with the color palettes. So we're looking what is coming in trend. There was Bordeaux, like it's like a Bordeaux red. You found it in Qatar, that red, which is a color that they seem to be that's going to be the color that a lot of brands will use in the next few years. We choose something that we never used previously, so I cannot say more, but yeah, watches and wonders next year, or visit Moselland. Yeah, Hautlence, yeah.
All right, no more questions. Oh, one more question. Let's have a question up here. Yes.
Yeah, one more question. Since we're talking about the fact that Hautlence stays in its lane, does its own thing, but here we're also talking about, oh, there's a new trend that's coming, something in burgundy or in red. How do you view the next sort of 5 years of the watch industry in general, whether it's from the pieces that are made, things that you're seeing, or maybe things that you would want to happen outside?
This is my personal perspective. I think one brand that I'm loving what they brought out and will do great in the future is Berneron. He's very sensible towards like what is the case shape, colors. He's very puristic. I love that he makes no compromise as well when he builds a watch. I think that's very important. We cannot take our customers for granted. And sometimes I feel like when a brand is in a big group, it's a number game. And I feel like this is gonna change in the future, that customers are more aware that they buy something which has the value in it that was promised. And it's not just a marketing stunt. So I feel on the other hand, with colors, our take is a little bit to get inspired from other industries, art industry as well, fashion industry, where we have a lot of connections towards and who help us to as well forge a little bit something that another brand never did previously to now. Yeah.
In terms of trends, I think there is also a game with the layers and the transparency. We see some brands like Ming or other independent that are really playing with luminescent and transparency. So that's also giving a new era in terms of how you layer the display of the watch, which is nice for us because we started 20 years ago to try to explain the different layers with and apply figures on the sapphire crystal, etc. So now we see that it's becoming more and more. Also, some people just applying the name on under the top sapphire just to play with different volumes. That make the product really interesting because you play with 3 dimensions, even on a classic watch. So that trend is really important. I think we have also a big trend today with the classic vintage watches going back to small sizes, 34. That's a curve. Of course, I remember when I was in Tagoyer in 97, a big watch was a 39 watch. It was a chronograph. Then we went to crazy sizes at 45, 46, 50. Now we are back to smaller sizes. So I think there is an appetite, but the beauty of all those sizes and trends make the choice for the customer even more interesting because some people, even in Asia, we feel that they have a small wrist. No, they like huge watches because it's also a status display. Like some people you will expect to be a super classy person will also pick the biggest watch that Claudio is wearing today because it's a great display of art in the dial. So that's really depending on the taste and the trend. So, but I think that 3D layering is really something that we feel on my side with the production that I can see. That's really something trendy today.
Okay, well, let's give the last question for the evening to Claudio.
So some of you might be wondering, where can you see a Hautlence watch? So that was one of the things that I always hear. It's more of a comment than a question. It's hard to understand what a watch is if you just see it online, if you just see it on social media. How do you know if you like the watch? How do you know if it speaks to you? So I know we're in about 4 or 5 locations in the US. There's probably about a dozen watches out there. But if anybody wanted to see a collection, I think it's a good opportunity right now to reach out to any of us. To Cedric, to Guillaume. You come see the collection at our headquarters, which is just a few blocks over here. It took me 15 minutes to walk here. So you can make an appointment, sit down, check out the collection at a very relaxed environment. Take as many pictures as you like and just sort of see what speaks to you and then, go about your days. Because this brand is as rare as it gets. There's Moser, which is very rare, and then this is, super rare. So it's a good opportunity now to take a look at the collection, get in touch with us, and we'd be more than happy to show you the goods. That's pretty much it. It wasn't much of a question. Sorry.
Thank you, Claudio.
Yeah.
Last question. Would it be okay for you if we do a selfie with all of us?
Thank you.
Thank you both. Thanks everyone for coming. See you next month. Have a good night.